All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Dollar Bin Digging. This week, I'm going to try something a little bit different in honor of another version of Writer Wars over at comicbookinvest.com. I figured, you know what, let me kind of do a dollar bin digging, kind of targeted at some of the content that was provided in this go round. If you haven't checked out any of the articles, make sure you go back and check them out. There's a lot of good content in there, a lot of good stuff. And what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to pick a couple of books that were pointed out in two of the articles that just kind of caught my eye that actually fit what I do here with dollar bin digging. So in honor of those two writers, I'm going to spotlight a couple of books that they picked. This is not to show favoritism. I don't know either of the writers personally. It's just, they put some stuff out there that kind of caught my eye and got my brain, my gears kind of turning. So we're going to take a look at those books just in a minute. So please like, subscribe, hit that alert button so you don't miss out on any of the content, and make sure you check out the giveaway that I have going on again this week to celebrate hitting 500 subscribers on YouTube. It's very easy. Just make sure you're following me on Instagram at Rennavision. Make sure you're following Tales from the Dark Side podcast on Rennavision, and make sure you're subscribed to this channel. All the details can be found on the video giveaway announcement on my channel, and you have to comment there to actually enter. So make sure you pay attention to that. Now, with that all being said, just hang on for a second, and we'll be right back with the books. Okay, so like I mentioned, this week we are going to focus in on some of the books presented in our Writer Wars over at comicbookinvest.com. Just a couple of good articles, just listing out some possibilities and some fun stuff. So I figured, you know what, let's highlight some of that here, and let's take a look at some books. Now, the first one that I'm looking at was by a writer by the name of Jack Kay. Again, I don't know either of the writers of these articles personally. They just wrote some stuff. I read it, and again, these were some books that I thought were opportunities that are still out in those cheap bins. So I figured, you know what, let me spotlight what they wrote, spotlight what you guys can still pick up based on what they had pointed out. So Jack pointed out some locks and long shots that he believed of some characters we could be seeing coming forward in the MCU. Threw out some Hail Mary passes for sure, but you know what? It's just interesting stuff. And when we're talking about digging on those cheap bins, it's a lot of fun to do because you know what? Maybe it hits, maybe it doesn't. All it costs you was $1. So could do a lot worse. Now, the first one that kind of caught my eye wasn't the first three picks, but actually his fourth pick in the locks, and this was the character of Toni, who actually ends up being Iron Patriot eventually. Now, interesting character, young character. We could see, Marvel using, this type of character of diversity. I think she might be of Chinese descent, and I think she was a doctor when she was first introduced in the New Avengers #1. I don't remember which volume this was, but this is one of the more recent volumes of New Avengers. And I believe there was a bit where she actually had her own rescue armor and then eventually became Iron Patriot in the comics. And that was also in USA Avengers #1, which is another book. So both that New Avengers #1 and this USA Avengers #1 are both books you still might be able to find in those cheap bins. Now, the USA Avengers #1 had a ton of variant covers. There was one for every state. One for every state, and then multiples on top of that too. Retailers got a pretty cool, I think, incentive where they got all of the state covers all on one. That thing sells for a bunch, but it is really cool if you can find it. But again, you're not going to find that at a dollar bin. There's also an action figure cover with this character of her playing Iron Patriot on it, which is kind of cool if you can find it. And I really do like this Ryan Stegman. I think this is the 1 in 25 for the cover with Red Hulk doing the whole Uncle Sam thing. I think Topher pointed this out on Instagram, or somebody did. I thought it was Topher, but I like this cover, and I actually picked one up myself recently. Not out of a cheap bin, but under ratio, so that's good enough for me. But keep an eye out for that New Avengers 1 and the USA Avengers #1, just for this character, because sure, Jack might have written it down as a lock, but it could be a long shot. Either way, I say take a shot, for $1. Now, another character he covered in his article with the long shots, and his first one was this character called Finesse, who is the daughter of Taskmaster. Another interesting play. We know we're getting Taskmaster in the Black Widow movie. Maybe they have a little subplot of him having a daughter. Maybe she's a character we see, become a foil for an upcoming, Young Avengers team. Like, we're going to need young villains to face these young heroes. So why not have something like this, where she's, like her father, the photographic reflexes and all, pretty interesting character and something that I could see easily translated on film. So I think it's actually a good play as well. And her first appearance is in Avengers Academy 1. Now, this is kind of a tough book to still find in those cheap bins these days because a lot of people were scooping this one up for the first Reptile, who's the boy on the front there who's like part dinosaur, transforms into a dinosaur, because he was in the cartoon, and I think, and then he was introduced here in the comics, and I know he got some play. And I think he actually has a series either out or coming out soon as well. So that might make this book a little bit tougher to find in those dollar bins, but it's out there. Like these weird Avengers titles with the Avengers Assembles, the Avengers Worlds, the Avengers Academies, the Avengers Initiatives, those can be found, scattered throughout those cheap bins. So just keep an eye out for it because it could still be out there. And as I said, will we get this character? I don't know, but I think it's worth a gamble for $1. Personally, I think Taskmaster is going to be a hit when it hits, the screens with Black Widow. And could he have a daughter? Possibly. Could she have the same powers as him? Most certainly. So we'll see. We will see. Now, I got another 2 books from another author who had an entry into the Writer Wars, and this was by the writer by the name of Dante, and he had a whole article written around the concept of sets that you could sell, on eBay, which I think is a great idea. Sets do sell. I think it's a fantastic topic to cover because a lot of people don't know that there are a lot of sets that readers want to buy. Like I personally would rather buy a set of a storyline than a trade paperback. I love trades, but I like floppies. Like I prefer to have the original one, even if they're beat up in a lot of cases, and read like the original, Swamp Things in individual form rather than just buying an omnibus or a trade. That's just me, and I know there's a lot of people like me as well. So I think set selling is something to that you can do. I've done it before. You slowly build sets as you were out there digging, and you find pieces of storylines, and you just build them over time as you go through different boxes and different spots. And it's kind of fun. It's almost like card collecting a little bit. Now, that being said, I'm going to pick out 2 sets that Dante had pointed out, and these are things that we still might be able to find in those cheap boxes. And the first one relates to Echo, which, as we all know, is a very hot character with her first appearance in Daredevil 9 and even 10. So we know she's coming to that Hawkeye show. She's been cast. I don't remember the actress's name, but we know she's coming to the screen already. So this character herself is a good play. So Dante was pointing out that we get an origin story from her, basically, later in the run. Like she was introduced, like I said, in 9 and 10 of Daredevil, but in issue 51, we get this other little backstory, kind of a storyline that runs through about 5 issues or so. So definitely keep an eye out for those. Some really cool covers here with issue 51. I love that handprint, just gorgeous, gorgeous art. And then you got 52. That looks a lot like Zoe Saldana to me. And then 53 is another good cover. 54 has got a pretty cool Wolverine. And then the last one, 55, which has a strong Rosario Dawson feel to me, personally. But definitely, great run. Books to keep an eye out for in in those cheap bins, because if you could find them, put together a set, as Dante pointed out, you could do all right on flipping them as a set. Now, another set that he pointed out is another one I think is actually a good play as well, and one that I've been picking up in pieces here and there, and that's the Midnight Suns from way back. Those were those polybagged comics from all the like horror type Marvel characters. They had the connecting posters that were included in there, and this is something that we might eventually get horror in the MCU. I know there are rumors that Ghost Rider might show up in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie, maybe just as a cameo, maybe just a little tease. Who knows? But he's already been, in the Marvel universe before. I know it was the Robbie Reyes version, and I guess if you want to go to the Nick Cage version as well. So he's a character they could bring back. We also know we're getting Blade, and we also know that we're getting Morbius, even though he's in the Sony universe. This is still something that they might want to build towards, eventually. A different little angle, different little nook and corner of the universe. Maybe they spin out the cosmic stuff into their own thing, the horror stuff into the other thing, and they have their own little separate franchises that they can, spread out and not have to build everything into one Avengers movie, but have multiple Avengers types movies, franchises going on for themselves by doing something like this. All that being said, this set is not too hard to find because there are a lot of copies printed, but finding clean copies and nice copies that aren't all banged up, being buried in boxes, is a tougher call. But if you can find them, I'd say pick them up for $1. And here we're talking about Ghost Rider 28, Spirit of Vengeance, #1 is another good one. That's when Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch are kind of like side by side. This Morbius #1, there's tons of these out there. I see these all the time. Darkhold #1. This one got heat on it once we saw the Darkhold appearance in WandaVision. So this one might be scooped out of most boxes, but still keep an eye out for it because it does command a few bucks on its own. Night Stalkers #1 is kind of cool if you could find it. And then finally, Ghost Rider 31 wraps up that storyline with Lilith in there. Was another character I could see them kind of bringing to the Marvel universe. Still, fun little set that you could build, something you can put together pretty cheap if you can find them in those dollar bins, and make a couple of bucks if you want to flip them, or just get them for yourself just to read them, because again, it's a fun little storyline and something you can tuck away in your collection. So hopefully you guys like that. Those are the books that I wanted to kind of highlight with the Writer Wars having been completed. I know a winner should be announced soon, and great prizes from comicbookinvest.com and comicbookexclusives.com, providing those pretty awesome High Republic variants as prizes for the writers. I was part of the Writer Wars. That's how I ended up on CBSI. I did not win. I didn't make it through to the end, but I reached out and still found myself a spot. And here I am a few years later, and I'm still writing, and I love it. So hopefully that writer bug has bitten a couple more of you out there, maybe even ones that didn't submit into the Writer Wars. Keep an eye out for the next one, or just reach out and give back to the community how you can. Share your information. That's what I say. This is a community after all. So with that being said, thank you for stopping by. Again, please like, subscribe, hit that alert button so you don't miss any of my content, and I will see you guys next time.